Hello, and welcome to Where You Not Entertained, where two film fans discuss their favorite flicks. I'm Daniel,
And I'm James.
and today we also have a special guest. Introduce yourself.
I'm Rachel.
There you go. We are going to be talking about Bad Boys for Life, which is Bad Boys Part Trace.
Yeah, you kind of think if they're calling it For Life. I mean, I get it because of the movie itself, but like it implies the idea that maybe it's the fourth movie.
Yes, but it is not.
It is not. It is the third.
Yeah, it's number 3. And there might be more after.
17 years after the last one.
Yeah, and I think that I kind of like the way they addressed it, the 17 years in the future thing. You know, it was very much a throwback movie where it's been a long time and we're getting the gang back together to make this kind of movie. And it still felt that way. And at the same time, like it was true to the original movies. I didn't feel like it would be misplaced if you watch them one after another.
Right. No, very true. I think that they did I guess a unique job of kind of pulling that in the opening with, and spoiler alert, even though it's the first 5 minutes of the movie. But
by the way, we're going to spoil everything.
We're going to spoil it.
Heads up on that.
But how they pulled it in with Marcus's daughter having a baby with the very same guy that she was going on a first date with in the second movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was a good way to kind of pull all that stuff into, you know, this is essentially the new time frame.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And you get them zooming around in the new 911, which is right iconic for Bad Boys. And they're doing their fancy cop thing, but headed on a very non-cop thing.
Yeah. They are very breaking the law in Mike Lowry's car, as he normally is. Go faster.
That was one thing that I thought was interesting. I felt like there was a huge tonal shift because in the first couple movies, there was always this. Maybe it was also my age watching them, because I mean, I think I'm about 10 years younger than the two of the actors, and so when I first watched the first two Bad Boys, I had this feeling like, oh, Mike is the badass who's doing the thing, and Marcus is just the funny one.
Right.
But in this one, with his kind of more like aged perspective of like, man, I don't think I want to do this forever. I mean, like anymore either. It kind of turned into this. Mike is like not growing up 17 years later. He's still doing the crazy stuff. And maybe it's time for him to rein it in and become a grown up again, or for the first time. And so like, it was really interesting because I found myself way more, in line with Martin Lawrence's character than Will Smith's for the first time in the series.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think Martin Lawrence had an incredible performance in this. Normally, I like him for his comedic acting, but I don't consider him a good actor at all. It's a lot of probably because I haven't seen him in roles where he's not a comedian, and that's my fault. But I was really impressed with some of his chops in this.
Yeah, no, he's always funny. I think that he was still funny in this. But yeah, maybe a little bit more serious in certain aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he definitely showed the growing up, especially with the whole, is this your legacy? You want muscle shirts and body counts?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was kind of the voice of wisdom and reason.
Right. Well, and he always tries to be that, right?
Yeah.
Like in all the other ones, he's always the one going like, no, why are we doing this? But it actually maybe made a little more sense this time.
Kind of one thing that I wanted to make sure that I brought up that I felt was kind of weird when I watched the movie is, I'm sure everybody in the world, unless you're listening to this way later, knows what's going on. We've got the coronavirus thing going on. That's kind of at the forefront of my mind a lot of the times. In the very beginning, when the what's her name, the main bad guy, Isabel,
Yes.
Aretas?
is breaking out of prison, and she gets carried off as in the ambulance. Well, when like her son helps her get out of the ambulance and they kill everybody in there, like my first thought was, you're killing healthcare workers. And like before now, I mean, yes, it's always terrible to kill healthcare workers, but they didn't have the kind of reverence that they're having at this point in history. And so it was a little bit more jarring than normal.
I guess that's fair enough.
I don't know. It's just something I noticed when I was watching it and was like, oh, wow, that's especially egregious in my mind right now because of the situation we're going through worldwide.
It is such a logical old man hot take.
Yeah, right?
Oh my God, not that nurse. I might need her.
Right? Come on, man. There's not enough of them. It's like put bags on their head and like zip tie them on the side of the road or something. Well, that might be worse. They're in the desert or whatever.
Just let them go.
Yeah, just set them free.
No, taking no prisoners this time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought that this movie was really good, man. I had a really good time with it. It was super funny, as always. And I felt like the story was told really well. The characters were better fleshed out than ever. I can never get his name right. Joe Pantoliano?
Yeah, sure.
Joe Pantoliano, Captain Howard. He was also best known for me in The Matrix, but he's been in a ton of stuff. He was phenomenal. The captain's always been really funny and kind of this, over the top, crazy captain who's tired of their antics. But he was
super stressed.
Yeah, he was a lot more real in this. I really came to appreciate his character before they ripped him out from under me.
Right. Yeah, the scene at the basketball game.
That Buddhist metaphor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about the horse. The horse has nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Where are you going?
Yeah, where are you going, Mike? And
yeah.
At that moment, it's like, oh, wow. And you can see that he's sitting on the bleachers, and that conversation has really hit him.
Yeah.
Where he's really like, yeah, that's a good question. And then next thing you know, boom, Captain Howard shot in the neck. No fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty dark moment. But there's a couple of different things that I had issues with, and that kind of touches on one of them.
Okay.
The first one was when they did the 6-month time jump after Mike got shot and was in the hospital and everything. Mm-hmm. They just jumped 6 months forward. And I know he did like the beard coloring thing. Marcus was coloring in Mike's beard while he was in induced coma to show that there was a time jump. But then the 6 months later, when you saw them getting married and they tried to play it off as though he had, like, I guess they had pulled the plug or something, was what they were trying to play it off as in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then it was like 6 months later, I was like, that is a weird, like, it did feel kind of jarring to jump that far in the future.
Well, they didn't want to bore you to death.
Yeah. But the other part was they made Captain Howard so much better in this than he ever has been. And he's been great, but this was incredible. And then they immediately rip him out from under you. And while I felt like they addressed it very quickly and it gave our characters motivation, there was like there was almost zero grieving, or like, I don't know. It felt more, the way that it was presented almost felt like it was a justification for their actions instead of the reason for their actions.
Right.
Does that make sense at all?
Yeah. No, I could see that. And
It kind of washed over his death beyond just like showing them at the funeral.
I was saying he's been a part of it, since day one. So having a character like that just kind of go away, yeah, it was very unceremoniously kind of done. It was just, we're at the funeral, and that's really it.
Well, they've got to think about time, but they also need something incredibly impactful to justify Marcus coming back, right? Because he didn't after Mike got shot. And so you have to come up with something with more weight, I guess.
Yeah. A reason to bring Marcus out of retirement.
Yeah, and I get that, but I think they could have added a little more weight to it. Like, I think they could have actually added weight to that moment.
It could have taken a 3-minute scene of them sitting around moping.
Right.
And then one of them, Mike or, one of the Rita or somebody like that, talks for 30 seconds about how it's not what the captain would want us to do to mope around. And I know that that's cliche. That's why I'm not a writer. But I'm just saying there's ways that you could go about doing it that wouldn't be garbage.
Yeah. They had the brief moment where Marcus was, sitting in his lazy boy or whatever, and they gave you that, and then next thing, he's over at Mike's house, and they do the one more time thing.
I'm also picking apart the dramatic elements of Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah,
and
not the point.
Not the gunfights and Mike sliding across the floor on a dolly shooting. Pull it straight up doing the Hot Fuzz kind of thing.
Right.
And I just immediately imagine Simon Pegg narrating, or Nick. I can't ever remember his last name.
Nick Frost.
Yeah, Nick Frost. I immediately imagine him narrating like every gunfight in this movie.
Yeah, I could see that.
He jumped through the air whilst firing 2 guns at the same time. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Super evil Stig does an endo while shooting a machine gun.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The action was great. Super colorful, really well shot. It was understandable as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot of quick jumps.
No. And I will say, so I've actually watched this twice now.
Okay.
The first time was like the day after it came out. So it was like right when it came out. And I liked it. I did, but it to me didn't necessarily feel like the other Bad Boys movies. Like, it felt somehow displaced from the rest of them. And well, so when I watched it the second time, I don't necessarily know where I got that from. Like, where I got that feeling from. Because that was definitely not the case when I watched it again. When I watched it again, I was like, yeah, this is a Bad Boys movie for sure.
So the first time you had that feeling, and the second time it was less like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if it's just because, I don't know. Mike has always had a thing about his cars.
Yeah.
Like, a big thing about his cars. And so, like, when he didn't overreact when Marcus slammed the door into the fire hydrant, I was like, huh, okay. And then they're, going into to pick up the baby, and I was like, have y'all just gotten old? Is that what this is?
Yeah,
y'all just old. No time to lose my mind over you messing up my $200,000 car.
Yeah, and then, but I mean, he also, I think it was in character when he was putting his sunglasses on in the minivan. He was embarrassed to be seen in that vehicle.
Yeah,
And
no,
so-
that was awesome. Like I said, I don't know what the deal was the first time, but the second time, I definitely did not feel like that.
Okay.
It definitely felt like a Bad Boys movie to me.
The climax, I immediately was like, wow, so they're going out on the same note that they went out on the first movie. Like the abandoned like Spanish fort or mission style building.
In the first one?
Didn't the first Bad Boys movie? Oh, well, that was in a mansion. It was a similar building that they were.
Well, they had a
were
shootout in the mansion, but the first one was at a hangar, an airplane hangar, for the ending.
Okay, for the ending. But yeah, the shootout in the mansion was the part that was like really visually memorable for me from the first Bad Boys, and I definitely got pangs from that whenever they went to the climax.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, so fun fact. Martin Lawrence's daughter is actually in this movie as well. She is
Really?
she's one of the door girls at the fancy club that they go to.
Oh, really?
Tries to turn Mike Lowry away.
Yeah, the two that wouldn't let him in.
Oh, that's awesome.
Charles Melton comes up and pulls his whole, my uncle recently divorced.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was Raph was definitely very hateable early on.
Yes, he was.
He's hateable in everything he's in.
Oh, is he?
That's weird.
He just has this quality.
Hateable quality.
Yeah. Pinched
I really
face,
like-
they don't like you.
I really liked Vanessa Hudgensen's character. I thought she did a good job. I was a little
Yeah.
bit surprised. I haven't seen her in a lot of stuff. I mean, I know she's been doing this a long time, but I'm not familiar with her with her work outside of just her fame.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I'm familiar with Vanessa Hudgens, but I don't know.
I didn't watch High School Musical.
Yeah, that wasn't my thing.
She does a lot of Netflix movies now.
Does
Yeah.
she?
That's her thing, and being into activism. That's her thing.
Yeah, I thought she was great.
But
Yeah,
I like the other one, the big blonde giant.
the big
Oh,
Dorn.
Dorn.
Giant.
Yeah, Dorn
Whoever
is
he
great
was.
too. He was
Alexander
hilarious.
Ludwig.
I'm going to need a lot of therapy after this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys should come to the group session.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I am definitely not going to therapy with.
Yeah, what's her name? Paula Nunez.
hmm
Mhm.
Yeah, she
Nunez?
was awesome as well. Yeah, Nunez. Rita was a great character. I thought she was really set up well. I'd be happy seeing another movie with her and Mike in it.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things that I'm curious about on this is that they've kind of set it up for that, right?
Mhm.
Where maybe like a Mike and Marcus are in the movie, but is more like a guiding hand. And
Yeah.
then you have like the ammo team essentially of Nick, Dorn, and Raph with Rita actually being the captain now.
And
Yeah,
adding
the-
in the new prodigal son, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like there's a story to his way to earn his freedom back.
Right.
Yeah. That was also, as far as acting goes, I was really impressed by everybody, kind of except for him. And I don't really mean to be a jerk like that. I don't like calling people out, but Armando, his son, like, it wasn't his acting per se. His acting was fine, but it was also that flip at the end seemed really weird to me.
It was really fast.
That's what I mean. Is somebody that's that much of a zealot and just like that dedicated to a mission, changing their mind that quickly? Like,
I
that
don't
feels like
know.
that takes time. You have to earn that.
Well, see, and the reason I say I don't know is because he was doing it for his mom, right? But
Yeah.
his mom was like shitting on him the whole time. And then when you really get down to it, and he's like, "Is this really my dad?" And then she shoots him.
Yeah.
I could kind of see how it'd be easy to be like, "Okay, I've had enough of this." He did
Fair
have
enough.
a code. He did say no innocence. And that
Mhm.
was not something that his mom had ever said to him.
That is true.
So I think that there was something that they kind of put in there, maybe underlying for that.
Yeah, but he goes in killing cops and all sorts of other law enforcement official type people just
They were
on
direct.
the word of somebody else, and then he just flips. It did feel a little convenient. Like, because plot,
Yeah.
we need somebody to carry on.
Well, it was it was it was absolutely convenient.
But I like that they tied it through the whole film. There were little glimpses, even from the beginning, with Mike talking about, I've been in love once. And then they just kind of kept feeding it through the whole movie. So she wasn't a total surprise. But
Right.
Yeah.
it did still have its issues, that's for sure. But I mean, it's Bad Boys. That's
Right.
not the point. We're not here for the plot. We're here for the cool gunfights and the sidecar. And
I'm here a little for the plot in Bad Boys. It's not just a pure gun show, fast driving movie. They've always had a mediumly good plot.
Yeah,
But
they've always
I
had a
don't-
little bit.
But I don't need to rip it apart. You're right.
Yeah. How dare you?
well, we
Well, no,
lost
I was
Judge
saying she's
Reinhold,
right.
so
I
come on.
wasn't saying how dare her. I was saying she's accurate. No, she had a good
Yes.
point.
It's very true.
All right. Well, was there anything else you guys wanted to cover on Bad Boys for Life before we got into it?
I don't think so. Rachel?
No, I did like the joke of, we've been bad boys, now it's time to be good men. And Mike saying, who wants to sing that song?
Right, that was pretty funny.
That's
All
very
right.
true.
Well, in honor of our guest, hey Rachel, what was your favorite scene?
I think I have to go with the minivan scene
Nice.
where they
Oh yeah.
dump the informant on the top, and he's like, that better be a piano. And it is not.
I
It
was
is
so
not.
thankful that they showed them driving back in the car. That was one of the highlights of this week for me.
Smashed and covered in blood, and well, how mad is she gonna be that time I spilled in your Ferrari?
Yeah.
It's just
That was
great.
great.
Yeah. That was a really good one. It was
And the
great
way
comic.
Mike
relief.
drops off the baby and then gets back in the car. Go, go, go. She's coming.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Good choice.
That was- Very funny scene. All right, Daniel. What was your favorite scene?
My favorite scene was actually when they were chasing down Zuelo after he had gotten out of the club and was running away on the
Okay.
motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after they had already shot him in the head with the rubber bullet.
Okay, yeah.
Calling me Mike.
But when they were chasing him down on the motorcycle with the sidecar.
Yeah.
And Marcus had already had the conversation with Mike about how he had, had a conversation with God, and he was never going to hurt anybody again if he saved Mike. And so,
God knew that was bullshit.
yeah, exactly. So they're kind of revisiting it, and he basically turns him into, you're doing this for God. You're God's right-hand man, that kind of deal.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, he pops out a damn minigun from the sidecar.
It's like an
Yeah.
angry white man's basement in here.
It's like an angry white man's basement in here. That is a great line.
Yeah,
That was
it is.
great. As he pulled out the sawed-off double barrel.
It was so great though when Zuelo grabbed that pole in the club and jumped off of it. Like, he had a plan.
Yeah, he
That
was
funny.
out of there.
That's a guy that knows his exits, regardless of if it's his birthday or he's in the club or what's happening. He knows how to get out.
And he was gone. But yeah, so that moment, and then when he was lighting him up with the minigun.
Yeah.
and how Mike didn't let him get let him get blown up.
Yeah, kept pushing the car, the sidecar.
Yeah, exactly. So he cut it so they didn't get blown up, and then he hit him so that he didn't run into that 18-wheeler.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it just kind of speaks about their bond a little bit. So I really enjoyed that scene.
That was a good one.
So what was yours, James?
Oh man, really hard one to choose. Mine were between two of the serious moments. One of them would have been, it was almost the scene at the baseball field, I think, or soccer field. I don't remember. Basketball, sure. That's
jeez, man.
I wasn't paying attention to that. I was paying attention to the captain and Mike talking. I love that. Yeah, I love that scene. But I'm actually going to go with the one after Mike finally wakes up. It's at the wedding. When Mike is full of rage and wanting the vengeance, and you see a real fight between Mike and Marcus go on, where Marcus is like, look, man, I've given up violence and I've retired. I'm sorry you were in a coma for 6 months, but I'm done with this. That's too much. And you want to go on a killing spree. And just kind of the two different perspectives of that to a tragedy like Mike getting shot like that was.
Right.
It also had it was wonderfully infused with humor while still being really serious spot, and I think really well acted on both their parts. And the fact that Mike was like, "Come on, man! I thought you were going to help me turn it up," and he was like, "Turn it up? What are you, 20? You need to turn that shit off." And so it was delivered really well and was really funny, but at the same time poignant to the story that was being told. And it wasn't just random jokes. It was directional to the situation. I don't know. I thought it was a really good scene. It's one of the parts that was like, I like this movie now because of that.
Yeah.
Well, and that speaks to the need to have something really big to get Marcus back in it, right? Because to have Mike tell him, so somebody can just dump my ass and you're not going to do anything.
Right.
It's hard. Marcus wants to grow up and be safe and have the rest of the life he can have.
See his grandchild get raised.
The baby.
The baby.
See the baby, Mike.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up for our Bad Boys for Life coverage. I do appreciate you, Rachel, for coming on and joining us and throwing in your perspective. Always good to have a friend on the podcast.
Thanks.
If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe. Do all those things on the internet and join us next time on Were You Not Entertained?